I'm here with a very interesting personality from Mumbai chess, Swapnil Kothari. Swapnil, you are not just a chess player, are you?
Well, chess is my hobby, and law is my profession. Chess is my passion.
And you are playing at the Mayor's Cup here, taking break from your very thriving profession of being a lawyer.
Yes, it the courts are closed at the moment, and this is the best time to pursue your hobbies, and this is one of the best things that I do. That's to play chess, apart from solving crosswords and arguing with my wife.
And we have seen you on numerous channels, news channels. So you are definitely one of the topmost lawyers. One question which comes to us very regularly is how do you maintain this passion between working, that you are doing your work, and also chess? How do you maintain it?
I think God has been very kind in many ways, and I pursued my legal practice for quite some time very vigorously, and once I developed and established a significant clientele, then it was very easy for me to come back to this game, which was always and is my hobby, and I just take life as it comes in the sense that when there is a tournament, I go ahead and play it. When there is, a call from the channel, I go ahead and do that. And when there is, a client call, I attend to the client as well. So it balances it out. And I have to give a lot of credit to my family members, especially to my wife, for being, very, very patient and bearing with, all my pursuits and indulgences.
So what is it that attracts you to the game of chess?
I think it's intellectual gymnastics in the first place, and it helps me a lot in my profession as well.
Yes, that was
because
what I was going to ask you as well.
yes,
How?
yes, it does very much because you tend to foresee your moves, and especially the moves of the opponent, especially in the litigation aspect when you're doing litigation or even corporate litigation for that matter, and you can sort of anticipate what the other side is going to do, and depending upon that, you prepare your responses. So, given that the legal battles can be really, really ferocious and they can really last long, one is well prepared if one is used to these long games in chess to, sort of simulate a courtroom to a chessboard, if I may say so.
So you can say that a chess player does have few things that can make him a good lawyer. He
Oh,
learns a few
absolutely.
things.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the most important things that one picks up from chess is rigorous thinking and ruthless analysis. You have to have a fantastic analytical brain for that matter, and that is one of the key ingredients for legal success as well. For success in a legal practice, to be a successful lawyer, you need to really, really be able to grasp the issue, simulate it with grasping the position, analyzing it through and through thoroughly to the best of your ability, as much as your ability to see the board or ability to see the nuances of a particular case is concerned, or say for example if there is a corporate deal or a negotiation going on, so in that essence also you might want to see as to what sort of terms and conditions are there. So it's branches, sub branches, it's like variations and sub variations, so it's very, very similar in that sense, and then you have to prepare for it. What we do generally in a practice of law is you follow the IRAC rule, which is the issue first, ability to know the issues, then the rule, and then apply the rules, and then come to a conclusion. So the same way, you grasp the position, then you know the rules, you need to know the rules and the fundamentals of chess, and then you apply those fundamentals to the game to the best of your ability, and then of course the conclusion would depend on how well you have applied those rules.
Those were very nice parallels between law and chess. But you are a very strong chess player as well. At one point, you had an elo of about 2100. We would like to see one of your good games that you played in recent times. Can you tell us something about it?
Yeah, this game was particularly. It's got nothing to do with the opponent as such. It's more to do with the fact that it was more of a miniature in many ways, because I analyzed a lot of positions at that time in my mind, and I exhausted almost all of my time on the clock, whereas the opponent had about an hour to go. So this was in the IFL tournament
6 months ago.
6 months ago, and it was with one of the players, Dhishan Barua. And I was playing black, and I employed my favorite Sicilian defense in that. But thereafter, the way the nuances of the game and the position went through, I was pretty happy with the way I played this game, because he was playing quite well, and it was more of trying to, should I say, hoodwink him into coming into the kind of position that I wanted him to come into, and then employ my tactics. So the first part was more difficult, which is to get him into the kind of position which I like.
So can you just show us how you got him into that thing?
Yeah, sure.
So you were black?
Yeah, I was black. He played e4, I played c5, c3, e6, knight f3, d5, e into d5, e into d5,
So
d4.
Swapnil, you wanted to play the Sicilian.
Right.
Now you are into French territory.
True.
Does it affect you anything, or openings don't matter to you so much?
No, not really, because I'll tell you, fundamentally, I'm not all that good at openings. If you ask me, if you had asked me 20 years ago, maybe I would have rattled out all possible openings that were there. I'm aware of them generically, but if you ask me as to what a top grandmaster has played in this position 3 years back, I will not know it, because I am simply not. I don't have that kind of memory. Most of it is used up in my legal practice. So whatever balance is there, I try to more, play it out of passion and employ the rules of the game, rather than say a particular conversion of Sicilian into French. But I know that my pieces need to be active, and that's what I basically look at. And my pawn position should not be so bad that my pieces cannot go about doing what I want them to do.
Okay, so let's get on the game.
Right, d4 he played, and then I played an f6, and then he played bishop e3. I played c into d4. He plays knight takes d4, and I played knight c6. He plays bishop b5. Thereafter, I played bishop d7, and then knight d2, bishop d6. So one can see that what I'm doing is basically just developing the pieces first. There is no set plan in my head at the moment. It's simple, basic rule of chess. The first one being develop your pieces. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm doing. Now after bishop d6, he plays bishop e2. Now I felt that this was perhaps a little bit of a weak move. I did not understand this move, to be very honest. Just because I don't understand the move doesn't mean that it's a bad move. It could very well be a very, very brilliant move. But the only surmise that I could make out of this was the fact that he could possibly, his intention was to play an nb5, and then try to, if I were to play bishop b8, then that hems in my rook on a8, and then bishop e7, obviously the purpose of bishop d6 is lost. So once he played bishop e2, I played rook c8 immediately, because I thought that, okay, let him come on nb5 and then I'll just play. But he never played that. He simply played knight 2 to b3, and then I played a6, because I did not want the knight to come there at all, knight or bishop for that matter, because I did not want my bishop to sit on b8 so that my c5 becomes weak. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason when I played a6, so that the entire activity is stopped. And I simply employed the basic rule of the game, is that you can't have one knight even sitting on the 5th rank, much less two, because then nb5 and nc5 would be perhaps lethal, and I may have to get up soon from my seat. So I did not want that to happen at all. And to this, he played knight takes c6, because he realized that now his purpose is lost. His intentions are, he cannot fructify his intentions in this manner. So then I played bishop into c6. Naturally, then he got his knight d4, which is a very...
At this point, what do you think? Who's better?
At this point, I think both are equal. Okay. I don't see that he's got... he's anyway better than me, or if he's got two bishops on e2 and e3, so do I on d6 and c6. His knight d4 is a very good knight, better than mine, but it's not doing much damage at the moment. So I don't think that that's something which I need to worry about. Obviously, knight d4 is aimed at trying to snare my bishop, or probably just go to knight f5, which will be a very good square for him. So I played bishop d7, stalling that knight f5 immediately. And then he plays h3. The good player that he is, he tried possibly that he wanted to move his queen now, so he did not want the g4 square to be in any manner taken up by knight g4 or bishop g4 for that matter. So he just simply plays h3, and to this I simply castled because I felt that the best thing to do in this position is to castle. The moment I castle, he plays bishop d3. And now this becomes a little interesting here, because now the choice was that the f5 square is a little weak for as far as I'm concerned. I had an option, first of all, to play knight e4. But then I thought that if I play knight e4, then he might just play queen c2, and then I'll have to play f5, and whatever plans I had in my mind would not really fructify in the future. So what I thought is that it's best that I keep all my pieces within my sphere of 4 ranks, and I try to be as innocent in my play rather than being very forthcoming or committal, which any 4 would be a little committal in my opinion, which I did not want to play. And obviously he's not going to play f3 to any 4, because then he's going to leave his g3 square very in a very sorry state. So I knew that he's a good player, so he wouldn't do that from whatever I've seen so far from his game. So I just felt that the best thing to do is do not allow him at all any occupation of the f5 square. So I simply played g6 here. And I was not worried about bishop h6, because then I would have rook e8 with a check, and his bishop is not going to do anything in this situation. So he castled here. He did not pursue. Now I played ne4, because now that he is castled, the nuances are a little different. Because now if he plays queen c2, then I can play f5, where I don't have to worry because my king is in a safe position. My bishop will be protecting the e6 square. So I don't really have to worry, and naturally he's not going to play f3, because otherwise knight g3 is a little problematic for him, and he's not going to give that, he's not going to play those kind of moves. So here he plays queen b3. And this now for all the people who are watching this, mostly especially in the region of 2000 or so, this is where I commence my plan. I kind of expected that he will play queen b3, but actually the logic would brutally tell me that he will not, because knight c5 is a little strong as far as I'm the position is concerned.
So we can ask the viewers to kind of pause the video here and think for black as to how he can get a good advantage here.
Yes, you could do that, and try to see that if they can see still further deeper at knight c5.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you did go ahead with the move, yeah, knight c5.
I did go ahead with the move, and this is where I expected that this is a trap, sort of a trap. This the beginning of the combination, should I say, or the beginning of should I say, candidate moves starts from here, because I knew that his queen b3 was something which he may not play, because he will not be fall into the sort of very disguised trap of taking queen into d5. And here it looks that d5 and b7 both are going, and I the only way that I can do it is play bishop c6, and then he plays knight c6 and b into c6, leaving my a6 or should I say, if not b into c6, rook into c6, but then queen into b7, or b into c6, he'll simply play b into a6. So there's no way that I'm going to be able to play bishop c6. So the only way, the best way here was that I played knight c5. Actually, my eyes lit up when he played queen b3. So I was very happy that I played knight c5. And he kind of looked at me at this point in time, and he just simply took.
He could have gone back, but then that loses the
absolutely
idea of queen b3. So
correct. True, Sagar. You are right. I mean, he could have played queen c2, and but I think, Sagar, what was running in his mind was that he was not too happy giving up that light squared bishop for nothing in return.
Sure.
So I think the joy of taking the d5 pawn and that to a center pawn is something, especially when he knows that he can bring his rooks back, and it's not going to, and especially because I'm not going to be able to take knight to d3 immediately, because then it's simply queen into d6 here. So he took queen into d5. Now here, what I would like the chess players to look at is that if I were to play bishop c6, he would simply play knight into c6, and then if I play, say for example, bishop c6, he plays knight c6, then I go bishop h2 check, king into h2. If I play queen takes queen into d5, he comes knight e7 check, and then regains my queen. So, and then if I take his knight d3, but then he's got my pawn.
Sure.
So he's got a centralized knight, here, and he's got a bishop, and that's an extra bishop
Yeah,
for
it'll be
that
a
matter.
piece up.
It'll be a simple piece up. So this is something which I'm sure he looked at, but what he didn't look at was two knight c5, queen into d5. What he possibly just saw this. He knew that obviously I'm not going to play knight takes d3. Queen into d6 is very simple. So he did not see this move, which is bishop into h3. Now in this scenario, what happens is obviously g into h3, bishop h2 check, king into h2, two bishops gone, and I simply take his queen because now his knight is not at c6 but it's at d4. So being the good player that he is, he just thought that he's lost a pawn here. So queen c4 would be sort of a good move that I would think about. But then in queen c4 again he has problems where I take knight into d3, he takes queen into d3, I bring simply my bishop back, and he loses a pawn, and I'm still good.
Also,
I'm better.
b5 looks very strong here.
Also b5 is equally very strong here. But then I sort of didn't want a b5 because I thought that knight into b5, pawn into b5, queen into b5, and I did not want all those so many complications here, or just trying those kind of things. But this is maybe I would have played b5 after much thought there, and I had simply decided that maybe if I don't kind of evaluate b5 to my advantage, then I'll just simply take the knight takes bishop. I don't want this light squared bishop. I'll simply bring my bishop back. So that is what I will do, or I'll probably think somewhat deeper in this game. But then to my surprise, he played bishop c4. Now this is a move which I did not like at all on his part, because this is simply losing here. Now what happens here is that in this situation, I simply play b5. Now Sagar, this is where the your move comes in. b5, obviously he's not going to play knight into b5. That's absolutely absurd. So if he takes his a bishop back to b3, then I'll simply take knight takes b3, and then he takes, obviously queen takes b3, his queen sits here, and then I bring my bishop back. So this is something which I felt that I would play. I played b5, and then to my further astonishment, and this is something which I saw that he would play. B5, and that to my further astonishment, I was surprised when actually he played bishop h6. So I don't know what was there in his head, in this, whether he, if I'm going to take, obviously I'm not going to move my rook here, because it's queen into f7 check and queen g7 is a mate. So naturally I'm definitely going to take b into c4, to which obviously now he cannot take my rook, otherwise bishop h2 check and his queen is lost. So he's bound to take queen into c4. Now here the position is that he is, what he thought is that if I retreat my bishop, he takes my rook. So he gets two pieces, he gets a rook for two pieces. And if I move my rook, he simply takes my bishop, which is, he's still not, all is not lost. He might have thought that, if I may play queen h4, then I don't know how he was going to defend it any which ways, that if I were to play this rook e8 and he plays g3, and then if I were to play this, I don't know how he's going to manage this position. But I thought that why do I need to prolong the agony? Why don't I just do one thing? When he, after queen into c4, I simply played queen h4 straight away.
So if he takes on f8, you have bishop e6 back.
Absolutely. Bishop e6. If he takes bishop into f8, bishop e6, loses the queen or he's mated.
Right.
So this is what the thought came into my mind, and this is something which obviously, just for the benefit of the people who are watching this, I had not foreseen all this, but I knew that when I get this kind of a position, tactics spring out from these sort of positions. You just have to think a little bit logically, especially when two bishops are eyeing the h2 and the h3 square. All you need to do is, and especially when the queen is coming on h4 with such a tempo or with such ferocity, that I think it's almost virtually impossible to defend this position. So queen h4 was absolutely lethal, and he had no other choice except to take g into h3. And to this, I could have, I simply saw that the easiest way out in this position is to take queen into h3, threaten simple queen h2 mate. Or now that his bishop is lost, obviously his bishop f4 also goes to bishop f, this. And look at the best part about knight c4. This is something which I had seen at that time, knight c5, that his d3 square once his bishop is ready, will never allow his queen to come back to d3. So once the queen does not come to d3, then it cannot come back into the game, which allows queen into h3.
Nice.
So his queen doesn't come back. So
in
now
this
here,
position he resigned.
no,
Yeah?
here he just played f4, and then he just he himself just stopped the clock because he just
Queen
felt that
h6
it's a
is
simple
following.
queen into h6 is follows, as simple as that. So this was as pretty as it can get. It's lasted about 23 moves to be precise. And I would call this a miniature in many ways. So this is something which I got him into that position where knight c5 was possible, and get that isolated pawn on d5. So one of the other rules is that if your pieces are active, you don't really have to worry about the isolated central pawn. You can really lure the opponent's top piece there, and then reduce the value of that piece on d5 by ensuring that your bishops on d6 and c6 or d7, as it were earlier, are much more lethal than the opponent's queen.
Well, Swapnil, thank you so much for all your insights about law and chess, and also this beautiful game.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure
Sir.
talking to you.
It was both a pleasure and a privilege.